to make a quick acknowledgement. We have Dave Main from Alula with us today. He's the VP of Product Management over there. So as much as we're going to try to give you an in-depth technical look at this, Dave's the guy that builds this stuff. So he's also going to add in there if there's anything that we can't answer, or if he wants to kind of chime in, he's welcome to do so. With that being said, it is just a hair after 10, so we'll just go ahead and get started. We're here about the Alula Connect Plus platform. If you joined us last week, we were talking about the communicators from Alula, and that's a product that you add onto any security system. Alula Connect Plus is a self-contained security platform as well as automation built from the ground up. A little history there. As many of you might already know, Alula is the end result of the combination of IP Datatel and Resolution Products. Resolution Products had the Helix platform, which is what the Connect Plus is based on. The big difference now is with the power of IP Datatel in there, Alula's got their own back end. So now we're looking at a product and a platform where the hardware and the cloud software and the app that the end user uses and the web interface that you use to program, it all comes from one company. So we have that really tightly integrated platform. In addition, now under the Alula Connect Plus, we have some new features like automation with Z-Wave devices. We've got cameras in there. So for sure, we're going to take you through all of that stuff, and that's really exciting for us here. We've been involved with the Resolution Helix product for years. We continue to support it as the Connect Plus, and we're really excited to bring this to you today because we're just really impressed with some of the features that are in there and how easy the system is to use, and just how nice it is for the end user. So we'll get right on through this. Why are we here? What does this Connect platform, the Connect Plus platform, really offer to your customers and to you? Well, it's a modern approach to interactive security. Interactive security to us means not just a security system that you can arm and disarm, but the extras like Z-Wave devices, cameras. It's a system that you can actually interact with. So with Alula, we've got all that, and it's not a system that was modernized to make it handle these newer technologies. It was built from the ground up with them. So it was in mind from day one. Z-Wave integration. It's a really big one. Whether you just do the front door lock, or you do a thermostat, or you do some lighting devices, Z-Wave is one of the things that can differentiate what you do from what other security contractors can do and from what other panels do. It's also a way for you to get a little more RMR out of that account. It's also a way for you to really keep that customer engagement level high throughout the term of your relationship with that customer. It's not just you put it in a security system and you walk out. With Z-Wave, you can go back a few months later and say, would you like another light switch? Can we do another door lock for you? And that's if the customer doesn't just come right to you and ask that because they already were so impressed with it. Video integration. We're going to show you a few different camera options. We've got the doorbell camera here. There's a 360 camera on the ceiling. We'll show you some of those. But that's a brand new feature on this system, and it's really, really well done. We'll take you through how that works. New installations. This product is great for wireless or wired new installations. We're going to talk about how you can do that. We talk to a lot of security dealers these days that still want to run wires and do hardwired contacts because not that they don't believe that the wireless is robust enough, because it certainly is. It's just a matter of sometimes we don't want to see contacts on the windows on certain houses. Maybe we don't want to deal with battery replacement, stuff like that. So the way to do that as well, either for a new job or for a takeover job, and we'll get into that. Kind of in the reverse, the takeovers can be wired to wireless. We kind of touched on the wired already, but the wireless, we have a way within the Alula Connect Plus platform to kind of to take over existing wireless jobs without replacing the sensors, which is pretty cool stuff. We'll talk about that. The Alula devices have outstanding battery life and range. Some of the best we've seen from a lot of the brands out there. So it's one of these where you can trust and have confidence in the wireless system that you're using here. As I kind of said before, the hardware, the app, and the cloud service all come from one company. So there's none of this, we're waiting for the other guy to make the change, or we need that to be integrated yet. It's all one group that does it, so you get a really tightly integrated platform and a service there. Low dealer barriers to entry. So what that means is Alula's not going to say, we don't want you on board unless you have 50 accounts on, or unless you're putting 10 accounts a week on, or anything like that. There is a minimum billing. It's $20 a month, and it only takes usually 2 to 3 systems to hit that. So they really make it easy to get on board, and for that reason, it's a really good platform to use from that standpoint. And it's easy to set up and easy to deploy out there in the field. And we'll talk about a couple of approaches you can take and how you want to do that. What are we going to cover today? Let's talk about the outline. So we're going to give you a demo from the end user perspective. The first thing I'd like to do is show you how your customer will experience this system. So we're going to actually hop on the app. We'll share it on the screen, and you can see that. We're going to go through all the hardware. We have some of it on the board here, but we also got some slides on it. We'll take you through the important pieces. There are some other ones that I don't mean to say they're not important, but they're maybe not used as frequently. But we can get over in an email and a follow-up to you. But we're going to take you through the kind of the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of this. We're going to talk about hardwires for new and takeover jobs. We're going to talk about the Z-Wave options, not just what you can put on the panel, but how it actually looks, both to you as the installer and to the end user when they use the system. We're going to talk about panel setup from an iOS app. This is one of the coolest things that we can do on this Connect Plus panel. One thing that we see in a lot of dealers and how they've evolved over the years is some folks get so used to that keypad programming, they can practically do it with their eyes closed faster than somebody can break out a laptop. And we appreciate that, and I completely understand that. On the Alula side of things, because everything's wireless, we just don't do keypad programming. We can either do it from the web, from the dealer login, or we can actually do it from an iOS app connected locally to the panel. And you can even do that before you go out to the job site to install that panel. So we'll take you through all the options on that and how that works. All right, so the first thing is, if you want to bear with me just 1 second, I'm going to actually hop on my iPhone here and get into the Alula app. We're going to share my screen and I'll show it to you. So let me just get that cranked up here. You're going to see the screen jump around a little bit while we initiate here. And quick note, I don't know if we have anybody that joined us on a mobile device today. I don't believe the screen sharing comes over to that, so I apologize if I missed that section, but we will certainly get that back to you. We'll hop back to the presentation momentarily. So I'm going to get into my Alula app right here. You're going to see it pop up. So here's the home screen to the app that you're looking at on your screen. You see a few different things. If we kind of scroll down a bit, you have some favorites there. The really cool thing here, and I'll show you how to do it, the end user can modify what their favorite devices are. So in our case here, we've got 2 cameras, 3 keypads. We have one of every sensor, so we've got like 8 sensors on this. We have 4 Z-Wave lights. We've got a Z-Wave thermostat, a Z-Wave lock. So there's a fair amount of devices on the system. So what's really nice here is the things that the customer wants to see regularly, they can put on their home screen. So for me, I put on the flood sensor because I'd like to be able to look at it and see if there's a problem with the water sensor. That flood sensor, which is the Trident sensor we call it, or the flood and temperature device, that's also a high and low temp. So the 3 functions there are water detection, high temperature condition, low temperature condition. But you can also see the current temperature in there. So it's kind of nice if you put that in a utility area or anywhere in the house, you can see the temp. Also, if I move down a little bit, I put some devices in there. For me, it was a couple of Z-Wave light bulbs. So we have those on, and they're right in your favorite area. You see those bulbs come on and off. So that's that part. If I scroll all the way to the top, that's my arming and disarming. I've got, I can arm the phone. You'll actually hear it beep here as it arms. We have our other modes, and I'm going to actually go ahead and disarm right now so it doesn't beep at us. One thing you might notice is I didn't see a problem for code. Every user account in the app is automatically associated to a code. So because I logged in with my account to this app, it's going to use my code, and you'll see that on the either the central station side or in the logs. You'll see that it was me. So that's in there for you. If I hop over to the security tab across the bottom, now you really can't see where I click, but if you look across the bottom of your screen, there's home, security, devices. I'm going to jump over to security now. So the first thing we have is the attention area, and you'll see ceiling motion just popped in there, and that's because there's a motion detector on the table, and every time I move, it picks me up. Another thing would be, like if I were to open the front door, for example, you'll see that it shows that door contact is open. So that's done for you. We go to all zones. Now there's this bar in the middle, attention, then all zones, and so on. If I go to all zones, that's exactly what it sounds like. I have a list of every single zone, and I can see if they're secured, if they're open, and I can also, with the switches in the red, I can bypass them. Now, bypass rights are only given user code. My user code happens to have the rights, but I can also set somebody up with the app that does not have the ability to bypass zones. So that's that one. Then real quick, we hop over to door window. For us, we classify both our door window sensor and our tilt sensor as door windows, so they're in there. If I go to my smoke CO, I've got both the CO detector and the smoke detector. And the really cool thing you notice in the CO detectors is not just a yes or no, it's actually got a readout, which is pretty cool. You don't see that on a lot of panels as well. Motion, I've got the the wall mount motion, and then I've got the ceiling motion there. Then environment would be my flood sensor, my low temp, which again are both coming from this one device. And then I can kind of move over from there. And again, my security arm and disarm is across the top. So now I'm going to hop over to devices, and that is my Z-Wave section. So I have 4 light bulbs here. If you kind of can still see on the camera, I can turn any device on or off as we go. I can do bright and dim on it. Really quick reaction times. I've got locks. I have a lock on here. I can lock and unlock that. So there's that. And I've got thermostats. Again, we have an MCO Home Z-Wave thermostat on here, relatively inexpensive, nice looking thermostat. I can go into that one. We can actually change the system mode. We can change the heat setting, the cool setting, everything you'd expect on there. The one thing I forgot to hit on locks is actually a really important one, is if we go into the lock, you get your battery level on it, which is a really big deal. You get your status, and on the top right, I've got those 3 dots, kind of a menu. If I click on that, I can edit the name, I can view the logs, and I can manage user codes. So one thing that's done really, really well on Alula that a lot of, or some Z-Wave controllers kind of miss the mark on this is they've got the ability to edit codes, which is, I think, a really big deal, especially on the security system. So a user can hop in here, again, a user who you give the rights to do this, can hop in here and add and remove lock codes at any moment, and they sync right up to the lock. So that's a really, really nice feature. As we keep going across in our demo here, the next part are the cameras. This one I don't know if it's going to stream very well for you guys, but I'll show you really quick. The one camera that I have here is the front door camera. We'll show you in a second how that works if somebody presses it. Also, you probably keep seeing the notifications come up on my phone. We've got it set so that anytime somebody walks past it, you're going to get a notification. Real quick on that, all the different camera options, and we'll lay those out for you in the presentation in another minute here. If you've ever used an Arlo system, I kind of liken it to that. Arlo is one of those where whenever you walk in front of it, you're going to get a clip, basically for the duration of the motion of the event that happened in front of the camera, and it's going to send you a push notification for you. This works just like that. So anytime anybody walks in front of one of these cameras, we get a push notification, and if that activity happens for 20 seconds, you'll get a 20-second clip. There is also a pre- and post-event buffer, which you can have a little bit of control over. That way, you might see a couple seconds leading up to and after the event, which is a really nice feature. So the way this works is you get kind of just a clip, and that's the last known clip, so to speak, here. If I just go ahead and click on this inside camera, it'll pop up. And you'll see I get now a live display of it, which if I were to move over, you see it's a live display. If I turn the phone sideways, you get a full screen. But the other options you have here are you can take a still image real quick. These are 2-way audio cameras. If I were to touch the mic button, we're going to get all kinds of feedback because I'm right near it. If we touch the microphone button, you can hear what's going on at the camera and you can speak to the camera. So you have that, get off my porch, get out of my yard kind of thing. That's Apple. Also, the audio comes through with the clips when you record it, so that's always there. And then finally, we've got the pan tilt zoom functionality. So if I hit that, I can actually move the camera around. You'll see that jump around a little bit. So you can actually kind of pan around, see the whole thing. Really, really cool. This is the indoor, we call the indoor 360 camera, so it has that panning functionality built in. So, so there's that one. The next one we have is the front door camera, and that again is the doorbell. This is a Wi-Fi camera, and the wiring is really flexible on it. We were really impressed when we hooked this up a couple weeks ago now. The first thing about that is it has all the modules in the packaging that you would need if you were to retrofit an existing mechanical doorbell. You can absolutely do that. It's a 16-volt doorbell. Just go ahead and put this module or put this unit on the front door, whatever door you're working on. There's a really small plastic module that goes like in the doorbell, and then that's what helps power the device, and it's seamless. When you press the button, you will still sound a mechanical chime. Alternatively, on new construction, or if you snake a wire to the front door for a house that never had a doorbell, you can just power this without that mechanical doorbell. We just need 16-volt AC, and we can run, which is standard doorbell transformer. We can run on that. So that's really nice. Again, if I kind of go into the live view for that one, we connect. It looks a lot different, and that's because it's the fisheye. It's meant to be like I'm standing right next to it, and you can kind of see me in it here. It's meant to be a really, really wide view, so you can see that kind of whole front door or porch area where the camera's mounted. That's why you get that kind of funky fisheye going on, but that's what that's all about. Again, 2-way audio on that. Then the other thing I would kind of throw out there is that we have this clip ability. So if I go over to the under each camera, you see a camera icon and like a play icon. If I go to that play icon, it's actually going to show me, and I'll try to scroll through so you can see it. It'll show me all the motion events that it detected. So again, every time you see the push notification pop into my phone, that's another one of those events. So I can go into one, and I can either play it live, and it's a little confused because I have the AirPlay on. You can play it live, or you can actually download the clip. You can download those clips in case you have an event that you need to save. If somebody burglarized the house, vandalized it, whatever the case is, you can grab that clip and save it because it only stays in the cloud for so long. We'll talk a little bit about how those things work in a follow-up email for you guys on the pricing of how that stuff works. So there's the cameras. Yeah. Yep. That's a great point. So Dave from Alula made a comment that I just want to elaborate on. If you use the communicators, if you have another brand security system that you put an Alula communicator on, the cameras work with that. So now again, in one app, you don't get quite the granularity that you get here from the security side of things, but you will get on a lot of panels, you get a virtual keypad, you can arm and disarm, and the cameras will integrate with that same app. So again, you have all that in one spot. Thanks for kicking that in, Dave. So that's the cameras, super easy to do. End users can add cameras. If a user wants another camera, you don't necessarily need to roll to the site. You can ship that camera to the customer, like an indoor camera that just sits on a shelf. And there's a plus sign on the top right. You're going to get a QR code scanner that you would just scan the code on the camera, and then you put in your Wi-Fi information, and the camera just syncs up to the account. Super easy. So that's that part. Last couple of things on the app from the end user perspective is this More button. The one thing that's really, really well done here, and I have one kind of halfway set up so I can show it to you, are the scenes. Scenes are not just, with one button turn on these 4 lights. It can be that, but scenes are also what we call like automation. So one event can trigger a series of other events, and that's built into here. So if I go to a new scene, you're going to see I have triggers and actions. So I'm going to go to triggers, and you can see on the screen here, there are just a ton of different options to trigger a scene, and they're all really thoughtful ones you would really want to use. When there's a certain type of alarm, so maybe you can say, when there's a fire alarm, turn on all the hallway lights to 50%, a way to light an exit path for the residents of the house. When a security zone opens or closes, you could do something like, when I open the front door, turn on the porch light, those kind of things. Battery limits, when a Z-Wave device gets below a certain battery limit, send me a notification. We have schedules here, once a day, once a week, those kind of things. Those are good for lighting schedules. And another really cool one here is the panel knows where you are, from a latitude and longitude standpoint. So it knows your sunrise and sunset based on that astrological clock. So if I hit at sunrise or at sunset, it's fantastic for things like landscape lighting, outdoor lighting where you want the lights on at dusk, and then kind of go off at a certain time. This is perfect for that. So we've got that built in. When a key fob button is pressed, it can do different things. So you can see, and I don't need to go through them, but there's a ton of them. There's not really anything that we've thought of that you can't do from this scene standpoint. Another nice thing about this is, as the dealer, you can set yourself up with a login and set these up for your customer. But after that initial setup period is over, they can do this on their own. They can set up new triggers, new events, new scenes. It's very easy to do. And then we also have here scenes, and we have groups. Groups just a group of devices that you want to display or control individually. Last thing I'll touch on here is regarding the groups. I'm back on the home screen now, and the first thing I opened up this part with was, you can see these favorite devices on the home screen. If we go to the top right and hit that edit button, this is basically the default favorite group that I see when I sign into the app. And you can see when I went to cameras, it shows me all my cameras on the system, and I checked off the inside one. If I go to zones, you can see I selected the flood sensor. Those were the 2 Z-Wave devices that I wanted to show. And I can even put a scene on there as well. So just some really cool stuff there. If anybody has any specific questions on the app, feel free to kind of put them in the chat, and we'll try to bring them up for you. But again, from our perspective, app is really well done. It is based by user, so different users have different authority levels. We can even break it down to say certain users can see certain cameras and others cannot. Certain users can see certain Z-Wave like lighting devices and others cannot. So you've got really infinite control over that, and it's very easy to set up. All right, so at this point, I'm going to turn off my mirroring, and we're going to get you back to the presentation here. Okay, So we are now back on it, and we'll continue. Little conversation about the hardware. So what really makes up this system? Well, the first thing, of course, is the panel itself. And you're looking at it right here. I've got another one in front of the laptop. That's the panel. Does it look like a standard security panel? Not necessarily, and that's because it's really meant to be done differently. It's meant to be put anywhere in the house. And one thing we look at is as things evolve and you look at the way that the internet has changed things in a home, we have devices now like hubs and routers and switches, and they can be placed kind of wherever the service provider puts them. One really nice thing with this panel, it's got an Ethernet port built in. So that's kind of the main way that it gets monitored. Yeah, we can do LTE backups, and we'll talk about some of that. We can do Wi-Fi if we need to, but built in is the Ethernet setting. So a lot of times what people will do with this is you put it on the stand that you see in front of me here, and place it near the internet where the internet connection enters the house, where that main router is. That way we've got a good connection. We can plug right in, and because we're all wireless, right down to the keypads, the sensors, everything can be all wireless. It doesn't really matter where this goes. So that's one thing. The battery is included inside that. It meets all the standards for how long the battery needs to last. Really cool thing about the battery is it's actually plugged in when you get it, but it doesn't use the battery until the first time the AC power is applied. So there's really a lot of thought put into that too. And then we've got 3 expansion slots in there, and we'll talk about what you can put in those slots and what you can do with them. One thing is Wi-Fi. A couple different options for Wi-Fi. One is there's a Wi-Fi card that goes in to support the touchscreens, and we'll talk more about that as we get into that. But there's also a Wi-Fi card that you can put in to get this panel onto your customer's Wi-Fi. If this is a job where there's just no good way to get this panel near an Ethernet location that just has to run on Wi-Fi, we can pop a card in to do that and actually let it run on the customer's Wi-Fi. Alternatively, in that same slot, we could put an LTE card. So that'll get you onto the Verizon network. It's very similar to the communicators as we just discussed last week, but the LTE card goes in, and now you're reporting over the LTE network. An important reference there is that could be your primary or your backup. So if you, again, let's take, for example, like a cabin. A lot of people, we've seen these used in vacation homes or cabins where there's not an all-the-time internet connection there. So in those cases, we pop the LTE card in, put this system in, and then we can still support everything that we discussed here except the cameras. The cameras do need a live internet connection, but we can do Z-Wave devices, so you can even lock and unlock that door from anywhere right over the LTE connections built in into the cabinet. So really nice for that. We've got a little Z-Wave slot card that we can add in slot 3. That supports the Z-Wave devices. Again, your light switches, locks, thermostats, those types of devices. And then the last thing we have is a translator. The translator happens to be a combo with Z-Wave and translator. It's just the way it's available. That also goes in slot 3. And that lets you use sensors from other brands. To elaborate on that a little bit, what's a translator? If anybody is not familiar with that, maybe haven't used one before, here's a little bit about how the translator works. So let's say you have an existing system that you're going to do a takeover on, and there's wireless sensors there already. Maybe those brands could be a Honeywell, a 2GIG, a GE, a DSC, a NAPCO, pretty much any of the major brands that are out there. Those sensors are already in place. You don't have the installer code, so you can't just take the system over easily like that. You could put a communicator on it if it's that kind of system. But alternatively, you could turn this into an Alula system really easy. Don't replace those sensors, leave them in there. Put the translator card inside here, and now on the image you see on the screen there, you can connect it up with the installer app and say, I want to look for this brand sensors. You can see them all on the list there. So I'm going to say, Honeywell sensors. I'm going to look for that, and then you can now learn the Honeywell sensors into this panel, just like they were Alula sensors, and you get all the same functionality. So what's really nice for that is this whole idea that the sensors that are there can stay there. So that's the idea behind a translator. Great for takeovers, or if you've got some sensors in stock, whatever the case is, it's just a really flexible thing to let you bring in some sensors from other systems. A little more on the hardware now on the user-facing side. We've got 3 different ways for the customer to interact with this system, aside from the app, in that house. And the first one's a touchpad, and I've got one up here. Touchpad is really, really well done. It's an Android-based unit, and it comes in this enclosure that lets you either wall mount it, or it has feet where you can tabletop mount it. It's got a power supply, so you can run it that way. There is even a battery in it, so it's used kind of as a battery backup. If the power fails, that's still going to work. Keep in mind, the Wi-Fi card that runs it is in the Alula panel, so if there's a backup battery in that as well. So even if we have a power failure situation, that touchscreen, that wireless touchscreen, will still function, which is a really nice feature. 7-inch display, it's Wi-Fi to the panel. There's a really recent update that we actually, in fact, don't even have yet, which makes the automation functionality that we just showed you on the app is now available in the touchscreen. So it makes this a whole lot more appealing now to have that, lights, locks, thermostat stuff right on there. There's an update coming real soon that'll have the cameras on it as well, as I understand. So you'll be able to see the cameras on there as well. Moving aside, so that's called the touchpad. The next one is called the keypad, and that's this one that we see over here, and you see it on your screen. That's a battery-powered device. They're AAA batteries. They've got a 1-year battery life, and the user can very easily replace those batteries. That's actually Bluetooth back to the panel. It's got this e-ink display, so it'll show you. I know it's hard to see from my from the camera, but if the system goes not ready, you'll actually see the screen on that change to show you that there's a door open. And then if the system goes back to ready, you'll see it change back to that. So we can do arming and disarming from there and get a kind of a basic glance of the system status just by looking at it. Next one over is the pin pad. And we'll talk a little bit about that one. That one isn't Bluetooth or Z-Wave. It uses the Cryptics protocol, which is the same as the wireless sensors use. It's got 1-button arming and 4-pin disarming and some feedback LED. We have a question? That's a great point. So what Dave from Alula had to mention there that I didn't really say is that at this point with the most recent firmware updates, when your user is looking at the touchpad that you install in their home or the app on their phone, the interface, the graphics all match, so it's not like they're learning two different things. That's another thing that those consistent user interfaces are really helpful for a dealer because it makes your life a little easier when you explain to the customer how to use that system. So back on that pin pad really quick, it's a super inexpensive device, really easy way to arm and disarm the panel. And where that thing becomes really, really useful is, and this is really a personal preference, I think, between dealers and their customers, but mostly I think you guys, the dealers, you don't have to have any keypad on this system. You don't have to have a touchpad, you don't need the pin pad, you don't need the keypad. You can do everything from the app. The argument there is, let's say there's an internet outage, and maybe it doesn't have the LTE backup, so there's an internet outage, so now we can't disarm the system, so somebody walks into the house, we're in that entry delay sequence now, and we're kind of stuck because we can't disarm, so that would be an issue. So for how inexpensive it is, I mean, this thing is, same cost as like a PIR motion sensor, it's in that neighborhood. Our recommendation is, even if the customer doesn't want to see it by their front door, stick it in a closet somewhere, in a pantry, in a drawer somewhere. Just give them some place to have a disarm and arm functionality without having to use the app. So that's a super nice feature on that one. Next thing, we talked a little bit about the hardwire option for new and takeover jobs. What you're looking at on your screen there is what's called the Hardwire Takeover module. It's also used for new jobs. It's got it is supervised and battery backed up. So the supervisory means that if the panel is constantly looking for it, and if we see that it's not there, or if we see that the battery's low, you're going to get a trouble condition, and you have that. There's 8 hardwired zone inputs on that with end-of-line resistor detection. So if you're taking over an existing hardwired job, and it was done with the end-of-line resistors out there at the devices, when that first powers up, it's going to look for the resistance on that loop, and then it'll memorize that, and it'll keep it going forward. So you don't have to worry about adding or removing resistors to make this compatible. It'll just work automatically. There is a unique wireless ID for each zone. So each of those 8 zones that you hardwire to it will show up as an independent zone in your list. And then there's also another wireless ID for the unit itself, and that's again for your supervisory and those kind of functions. Our take on this is for new construction and for a new job, and you want to wire those zones, this is fantastic for that. The other nice thing about it, because they're relatively inexpensive, you can pop them in multiple places in the house to reduce your wire runs. Maybe one in the attic, one in the basement. And when your upstairs zone's up, your downstairs zone's down, so it just reduces that wire run, and it doesn't really matter where they are. So it's kind of nice for that. Again, for takeovers, we just take the old panel out, we pop this in the old panel's place. The Connect Plus panel itself, again, as we said, goes anywhere, and the two work together, and that's your option for hardwire. So it's pretty unique, pretty good idea of a product. The Wi-Fi camera options, how does this all work? Well, we've got the 4 different options. The doorbell, as you can see, we have one here. You get a push notification when the video is pressed. I didn't show you that, but when you press that, you're going to get the ding-dong, the chime sound from the camera itself, and you'll also get a push notification immediately on the end-user app, which you can then click on and look at the person who's at the door. It's Wi-Fi. We kind of went through how that one works. One thing I didn't mention on that one is you've got, I think, 3 or 4 different colors in the box. There's white, black, there's like a tan brownish color. And there's also 2 or 3 different mounting options for the back of it where you can angle it. So, one issue we see a lot of times is, we have ours mounted flat. If it's really next to a door, it's kind of looking past the person who's standing at the door. But if you put the angle bracket behind it, we kick it in a few degrees, and now it's facing the person who's standing at the door. So that's all in the packaging for you. Everything you need is in there. The indoor cube camera is your least expensive option. 720p video, fixed view, does have IR night vision, and that's a great one to just kind of pop on a shelf or on a cabinet inside and have that indoor view from a home. Next option up is the indoor 360 camera. A little bit more cost on that one, but that's 1080p video and pan and tilt. So it's fully motorized. I showed you on the app how you can do that. So we have that. It's got a privacy shutter, so if it, indoor cameras are kind of a sensitive topic sometimes. People want them, but it's a privacy issue. You can actually just pop this physical barrier down in front of the lens, and no matter what anybody does then, you're not going to see what's going on there. It's also got IR night vision built in. Next one up would be the outdoor bullet camera. Oh, one thing to mention on the indoor, that's hardwired also. You can hardwire it with Ethernet if you want to. More reliable. The customer changes their Wi-Fi, it doesn't matter, so it's an option for you. Then finally, the outdoor bullet, similar to the indoor, except that it's a fixed view. It's got some antennas on it for the Wi-Fi. Again, hardwire optional on there. And it's got IR night vision, and it's also rated for dust and for weather protection. Yep. Yeah, so one thing, every one of these cameras has a 16 gig SD card, micro SD card in it. That comes with it, and that's actually where the video is stored, and then from there it's transmitted up to the cloud. So it's on there as kind of a backup. It's one of those things with the cloud recording, you'll get the question once in a while, well, what happens if the cloud is down, if the internet is down? It's a fair point. The video is stored locally and then synced up, so we kind of have it's built in that it just kind of overcomes that obstacle. So there's your camera options. Adding cameras is super easy. You're going to hop into that Alula app as the master user. This is important. You do want to go in as the master user when you add those cameras. Scan the QR code on the camera, and then you want to follow the directions that come up on the screen. Depending on the model, the 360 camera and the door camera are a little bit different. But you can either hook up right to the camera or you get the phone near the camera and it transmits the device, the information. Basically, there has to be a way for the phone to communicate with that camera to say, what's my Wi-Fi ID, what's the network password, and that stuff, and that's how we push it out. But I can tell you, we'd never done it before. A couple weeks ago, we got our 360 camera and our doorbell camera. I don't think we spent more than 5 minutes on either one of them, and that included wiring them. So it's very, very easy. It goes in real quick. Then you want to use the alarmdealer.com login, which is a little bit more at the end, to manage what users have access to the camera. And the reason I bring that up is we kind of had our own experience with this. When you first add it under the master user can now see those cameras, but if you get a couple more cameras in there or users in there, they won't necessarily be able to see them. So we go into the alarmdealer.com, we go to the device list, which you can see on your screen there, and that actually gives you the ability to see, like they'll come up in the denied list at first, and you just push that green button to pop them over to the approved or the granted list, and now any user that you want to grant access can see the cameras. Z-Wave options. How do we do it? Why do we do it? When you add that Z-Wave card or the combo translator and Z-Wave card, you now open up Z-Wave functionality. And it really is that easy. There's no more settings. You just pop it in, you turn the panel off, pop that card in, power the panel back up, and then by the time it boots up and it's back online, if you go to the app, you can add Z-Wave devices and they'll just start to work. Again, you want to be logged in as the master user to add those devices. That gives you that ability to then decide who has access to them. Typical devices that are supported are things like lights. This is going to be one of your most popular ones. Thermostats are most popular. Locks, I think, are far and away the most popular because that gives us that functionality of being able to come in and say when somebody unlocks the lock, disarm the security, or more importantly, when somebody disarms the security or somebody arms the security system as they're leaving, go ahead and lock that lock for them so you know the house is secure. And those are the kind of devices we can add. We can also add sensors, and one thing I would caution you on there is you can add Z-Wave sensors like flood sensors, the door window sensors, that kind of stuff, but they're not used for alarm sensors. They're just going to give you notifications. So I can say, when the Z-Wave PIR motion detector detects motion, turn on these lights. You might want to see it in the app. We can do that, but we can never say when a Z-Wave sensor sees motion, go into alarm mode. It's not meant for an alarm, and that's really because as an alarm company, Alula is really looking at that Cryptics, that reliable wireless to do the alarm stuff, and then we're looking at Z-Wave as kind of the add-on to do the automation. So we kind of draw that separation there. Again, use alarmdealer.com to decide who has access to it, and then use the Alula app, as we actually already saw, to add scenes and to add schedules. And again, that's something that I think you might want to do a couple for your customers so they know that functionality is there, but later they can always add them on their own. Z-Wave network overview. One thing we always like to kind of talk about is how the Z-Wave network works. We're not going to go through a whole dissertation on this, but we'll give you some of the finer points that'll keep you out of trouble, we like to say. And this is one of those things I would say right now, if you guys ever have any questions on Z-Wave, please feel free to ask us. Z-Wave is one of those things that has really come a long way. It's very reliable. It's a really good option to put on these panels. People who've used it 5 years ago, 10 years ago, may have had a bad experience to say, I'm never going back and touching Z-Wave again. And if that's the case, you're really missing out. There's a lot of cool stuff we can do with it, and a lot of end user benefits and RMR benefits to it. So if you have any issues or any questions on it, we kind of get our business to know Z-Wave really well, and we'd be happy to help you guys with any questions you have on it. But the finer points are, the more modules you've got in a Z-Wave network, the better the network coverage is. And the reason for that is Z-Wave is a mesh network. So every Z-Wave device can send signals, it can receive signals, and it can repeat signals. So if I have a house that's got 100 feet long and I have a signal that's got to get from one side all the way to the other side, Z-Wave doesn't have that kind of range unit to unit. But if we have a couple modules in the middle, it will hop through those, and that's where that mesh comes up. Technically, for a product to carry the Z-Wave logo, it's got to be certified, and it would have to have 75 feet of open air communication. You're not going to get 75 feet in a house. That's in a wide open field with no radio interference. Inside, we say the installed range, or the user range, it's more like 25 to 35 feet is typical. You will see that. Sometimes you'll see more than that. Sometimes on locks especially, you'll see a little bit less than that. Locks are encrypted for obvious security reasons, and because of that, they take a lot more bandwidth, and they're a little bit more taxing on a Z-Wave network. So we like to make sure we've got good range there. And what happens a lot of times is guys might take the lock to the panel, include it, and then take it to the front door or the side door where it's 50 feet away from the panel, and then they say, I lost communication with my lock. Yeah, we're kind of stretching out the limits in that case. Plug in a few lamp modules, they make a Z-Wave repeater. There's a lot of options, different ways to do it that are very inexpensive that you can plug in. The lamp module or an appliance module, I think, is a great option because not only does it build your network range a little bit better, but it also gives you another device that your customer can control. Put it on an actual table lamp, and they can automate when that light goes on and off, and it's another cool feature that you've offered them. So again, that's like the 30-second really basic thing on Z-Wave. But if you have a job coming up where you want to use Z-Wave, you haven't used it before, or you have used it and you have some concerns, by all means, give us a call, and we'd be happy to walk you through that. And majority of the time, we can figure out what the issues you've had in the past and help you not have it again. Connect Plus Installer app. We'll take you through a couple screens on this, then we'll go ahead and connect up live and show you the system. For a lot of guys, it's faster than traditional keypad-based programming. It's an app that you're going to grab on your iOS device right now. You're going to see one for Android in the future. And it's just a really, really cool way to program. You can learn in your sensors and your peripherals via barcode. So on every Alula device, there's a unique barcode on the back. It's basically the serial number of that device. So we can scan that with the phone and learn it into the system, and the device doesn't even need to be powered up. So if we take like a door window sensor, for example, there's like a plastic tab in that's got the battery disconnected to keep the device off until you use it. Leave that right in there. You can just scan them in, and then you can install them at your leisure when you have the chance to do it. From the app, we're also going to be doing zone types, entry-exit delays, translator details, anything else needed to get that system up and running. It's all in there. And the really cool thing here is that it can be done ahead of installation. So where this gets really cool is if you've got a team of installers, or you have or maybe a couple of installers, however that works. Either you can have them up to the to where they program on site, or you can do your pre-programming ahead of time at your office, and then that might make your installation process a little quicker. So that's one thing that we really, really like for the app and how that works. Keep in mind, when you do the pre-program option, everything that you program is stored in the panel, and the first time that panel comes live and gets on the internet, whether it's over LTE or over the Ethernet connection or however, it takes all the settings that you programmed into it and syncs them up to the account that you set up, and now everything's all in sync and everything works. So how do we do this? Well, on the back of our panel, we've got some connections, and we also have a click button at the top. There's one kind of red button there. You hold that down for a couple seconds, and you'll hear the panel beep, and then you let go. That puts the panel into the Bluetooth enroll mode, meaning it's now ready to be discovered by the installer app. So we hop over to the app, we say connect to a new device. It's going to pop up a screen that says default or custom. Default means a panel that's got the default installer password set to it, so you would use that the first time. If it's a panel that you're going back and reconnecting to program again, you would use the custom side, and all that does is let you put in the password that you set there. That's going to communicate for a couple seconds and bring in all the settings, and you'll actually see it come across the screen. It's bringing in, delays, zone types, all that stuff is going to come right in. You're going to have the home screen show up, so you've got all that there. And then at that point, you can see, is the system online, is it offline, battery status, all that'll show up for you. And then you've got different panel settings come up, like the beep volume, delays, all that kind of stuff you can do. And then the next screenshot, we show you how to add sensors, but we'll do this live in a second so you can actually see it. And we'll hop right in there. So again, let me switch back over to the demo mode for a moment, and we'll show you how that works. We're just switching over to screen sharing here. So, bear with me as I connect here so I can show you the app. This is one of those things, the mirroring works whenever you test it and then doesn't always want to cooperate. You should have this going in just a moment here. I apologize for the delay. Let's see here. All right. Okay, you should have my screen now. So I'm going to go into the Connect Plus installer app. And you see we have this connect to new panel. So I'm going to hold my button down for a second, and you'll actually hear this beep. Okay, now I hit connect to new panel, default, because I still have this defaulted. And you'll actually see this come across on the screen as you see all the settings come up. There we go, so we're enrolled. The beep means we have connected, and now it's going to grab all the settings that are already in that panel and bring them into the app so that we're in sync and we can see everything. So we're going to let that come up. So zones come in, keypad config comes in. It's pretty interesting. You'll see all this in the menu too, so you can see what's kind of happening here. User details. Okay, so we're connected. So now here's your home screen. You can see everything's green on the top, meaning my AC power is good, internet connection is good, CS is central station, so it sees the Alula cloud on the other end. Status is good, no trouble, so everything's cool there. We're going to panel configuration. You can see a few options you have. I will go to panel settings, alarm volume level, status volume levels. Here's some cool stuff like your entry delays, your exit delays, things that you would do on every system can be done in there, and they're super easy to get to. If we go back over to panel options, global chime, meaning do we want the keypad as a chime when we have an entry-exit door? Do we want to allow the quick arming or not? Allow force arming where we arm if the zone's not ready. So all the arming options are here. RF translator protocol. If you've got your translator in there, kind of we showed you that screenshot earlier, you can say what brand of sensors am I going to look for from the translator. key fob configurations where we can go in and set what every button on the key fob does. And it's really cool. You can actually see the icon that's printed on the key fob, so it's really easy to go in here and make those changes and say what each button does. Comms have more to do with your receiver, how you get out to that. The Wi-Fi settings, if you have the Wi-Fi set up, you can do that. Then the really cool one that you're going to use a lot is the glass break. I'm sorry, is the zone screen. Glass break's the first one on there. So here it's showing you all the zones we have. It shows you what our signal strength is out to the zone. So obviously they're all coming up really good. But also if we just hit this Add New Zone button, that's when you get the camera pop up and you just hold it in front of the device, scan it, and now it's in the system. So it's really cool. We can go in and rename the zone here. And again, everything's in sync. If you rename the zone here, in a few minutes it'll be in sync on the cloud, and it'll rename in the app for your users too. So everything stays in sync there. Peripherals are things like keypads, pretty much. Some sirens qualify as peripherals, so we can add them. And then users. We can edit the users that are in there. The direct pin. This is also where you do the installer password, which, as you can see, we didn't, but you definitely should. So that's that. I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time in here. We're kind of coming up to the end of our hour. But this is a really quick look at the installer app. Again, very easy to use, and I think you can see it's right up there with the speed of keypad programming. You can hop right through here, and even if you haven't used the panel before, it's really easy to learn because everything's spelled out, in words. It's not like you have to go through a certain code on the keypad. So we really like that. I'm going to hit this connect button on the bottom. You'll hear the keypad or the panel beep again to know that we've disconnected and we're out. So now let me get out of my mirroring and we'll kind of wrap here. Okay, so we are now back to the presentation. And now we have a couple screenshots from alarmdealer.com, and this will kind of take us to the end. We'll show you how this works. Alarmdealer.com is the way that you manage all your accounts, not just from a programming standpoint, but from a who are your accounts. So with the app, with the Connect Plus installer app, that's how I can set up a particular panel, because I'm connected right to that panel in that case. Alarmdealer.com is where I'm connected to the Alula cloud, and I manage all my customers in one screen there. What's really nice here is maybe you've used the Alula communicators before on whatever brand panel you use or to do some takeovers. If so, you've already used this. It's the same user interface. So maybe you've got a couple customers in there already. So to make the jump to the Connect Plus platform, the security panel, is really not that different. You already know how to create customers if you've done that. You already know how to assign users and all those kind of details. So you're halfway there at least. So here's kind of the home screen. What we've got selected here in red is where you would go to search or select for a certain customer. You can search them or just click them out of the list. And you're going to find the one that you want, and you're going to click right on that account, and it'll come up for you. At that point, you'll get the list of all the hardware that's associated with that account. And if you look at the bottom, you'll see in this case there's one they call Alula Instructional. So we click on that friendly name, and now you're looking at the details for that particular panel. At this point, it's a little more like you're not looking at all your customers anymore. You're looking at that one particular panel within that customer's account. There's a button on the top that says Connect Plus Configuration. You click that one, and now you're into the live setup on that panel, which looks a little bit like this. And it's really not too unlike the app that I just took you through, just that it's got a bigger screen now. And at this point, we can do all the programming that we need to do on that panel. You, again, get a live view of the panel status, what firmware it's on, its MAC address, in case you need to reference that MAC address with the support for any reason. What's in each expansion slot, it'll tell you there. Everything you need is right on that home screen, as well as some status. Is your AC power okay? Is your battery okay? All those kind of things. A couple more things you would do here a lot, like your delay timing. You can get into your exit delays. Your standard delays for your regular doors, the long delays like your garage doors, things that take a little longer to get in and out of. You can log in and make these changes from anywhere. So, as much as I like the Connect Plus installer app for that initial setup, this alarmdealer.com is fantastic for your long-term setup. So if you've already got a customer and they want to change, like every time I come home, I can't get to the keypad quick enough, I'm setting my own alarm off. Can I get a longer delay? Absolutely. You log in here, make that change, and you're not even have to drive out to the site to do it. So that's a pretty nice one. New users. Again, we go to the user area. You'll see all the existing users. Hit a new one. When you add a user, you're adding both the user account for alarmdealer.com and for the app so that they can log into the app, and you're adding a pin. So it's all in one screen, and they're associated from the first moment that you put them together. So you get again a login for the app or for the cloud service, and a pin that you use on your actual keypads. And that's done here. New zones, we can do that from this setting as well. We can actually put the panel in RF and learn mode, which means we just tell the panel we're ready to look for new wireless sensors. And then instead of using the barcode on the sensor, you just pull the battery tab out to power it up. And the first time it powers up, sends that learn signal to the panel, and they become bound together and associated. At that point, you can type in, name the zone and put in some other information about the zone, like what type it is, and some of the particulars for that sort of product if you need to. New key fob is another one. There's actually an area in that panel, in that setup screen for key fobs. You can add as many key fobs as you need to. And again, just like I showed you on the app, you can go in based on what each button does and assign functions to them. Buttons for the key fobs typically, as you would normally do, is the arm and the disarm. But what's really cool, because it's a 5-button key fob, now we have cool functionality like lock or unlock a door. We can do turn on a light. You can execute a scene. So maybe somebody drives into their driveway at night. They hit one button and it turns on the outside lights, and maybe a pathway to get inside from the front door. So we can do all that from the remote. And again, because we have that really nice wireless range, it's fantastic for a key fob. It'll work for a pretty good distance. That's kind of a really short overview on alarmdealer.com. But if you go to the Alula website, or if you give us a call if you want to learn more about it, we can take you through it on a kind of a one-on-one webinar like this. That's kind of the short story on it. Our suggestion here would be you would definitely want to get signed up as a dealer. If you're thinking about getting involved in this, you can go ahead and sign up, and you get a ton of benefits from signing up right away, like marketing materials. You can get the login that your customer uses on the web to have your name on it, not just the Alula name on it, so it's kind of custom branded for you. And this is also how you would get an account set up to the alarmdealer.com site to where you can start to do the programming that we just showed you here. So you'll want to do that. But that's kind of the thing with the whole with the alarmdealer.com website. And at this point, we're really kind of at the end here. It's a very straightforward system. There's a ton of features here, but really easy to set up. So at this point, I'd kind of open it up to questions. If anybody has any questions on any part of this. Do you have some? What's going on? Okay. Can somebody... Monthly fees, so we actually record this and we're going to pop it out there so you guys can watch it on YouTube later, so I don't want to talk about the fees here. I will send up a follow-up email to everybody that joined us today with all the fees and everything that you need to see that. So I will definitely follow up with you on that one. Yeah, if anybody's got any more questions, go ahead and type them in. We're watching the chat and we'll get them answered for you. Looks like we have some typing here. While we're waiting for the questions to come in, does the video only go on the Wi-Fi, not the BAT? So no matter what BAT you use, whether it's LTE or Wi-Fi, the video doesn't really go through the BAT. It goes over your customer's existing Wi-Fi. So as long as there's an internet connection there and there's Wi-Fi available, you can use the cameras no matter what BAT you use. I hope that answers what you're looking for. The thing I wanted to throw out there was that this demo board is also for you guys to use. If you get to a point where you say, I'd like to get into a little bit more, but I want to take a look at it from that end user perspective. How's the app work? Give us a call. We'll set you up with the username for it, and you can hop on the app just like we did today, and we'll actually you can have access to it. It's powered up 24/7. It's on the web, so you guys use it. It's also a fantastic tool for you to demo to your customers. So we'd like you to have the ability to do that. Alternatively, there's also, if you just download the Alula app from the App Store right now, without signing in, you can actually hit a demo button there, and you get a pretty good demo of the app that way. But if you want to use ours, you're also welcome to. Let us know if you want that. Let's see. Okay.
Basically repeat the question about the platform with that. Basically, the back uses internet as how the video.
Right. Yeah. So Dave's saying that you can utilize the video features whether using the BAT or the Connect Plus. So don't think that the cameras are only for the Connect Plus. They're for all the Alula Cloud platforms. Just watching some more comments come in. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and pop them in there. Another thing I'll throw out there, anybody who was on the webinar, this will be in the follow-up email as well. If you want to get involved in this, for anybody who was on the webinar, to thank you for your time, we're going to give you a 10% off any Connect Plus, any Alula parts for the next week. So if you want to give us, bring us up next week, and we'll help you get a demo system set up, or you want to get something to try out, feel free to do that, and we'll get you that 10% discount on there for joining us today, because we appreciate your time. Yeah, and Dave also said about using the video standalone. I kind of forgot to mention that. So even if you like the way the video that we showed you today works, and you don't have a need for the alarm panel or for the back communicator, you can just use it as a standalone video system, and it's fantastic for that. Again, there's an opportunity for you to have some RMR for it, because there's a fee for you with Alula that you then mark up as you see fit and pass on to your customer. And then you can add those cameras into the app without anything else. You can use it just as a video system. And that in the app is on iOS or Android. Yep.
Dave did answer the question, but he did on the thing. Basically said that you mentioned that the installer app is iOS and there are the Android version of that.
My understanding, and Dave, could you actually, Dave, comment to the Android version of the installer app where that stands? That's a little bit maybe outside of my wheelhouse. Is a Connect Plus what's used with Claire controls? There's a separate version for that. That's got really nothing to do with what we talked about today. It's on their platform. It's a similar. It is the system, but it's meant for a different backend. So it's kind of a different thing. Is there a fee? Oh, is there video verification for monitoring? Dave, could you answer that one for us? I don't know the answer to that. There is a separate Connect Plus panel that has two-way voice. So there is one it's a separate part number. It's got the two-way voice functionality built into it for your monitoring. Again, on the monitoring, just clarify how that works. Same exact situation with the communicators. When you have an account with Alula, that takes care of your interactive services and your signals from the customer's house to the Alula cloud, so to speak, which gets them everything they need on the app and local notifications. But if you want monitoring, where if the alarm goes off and your customer gets called, you set that up between Alula and your own monitoring station. So when you're in your customer account, that's the alarm signal forwarding. That's where you can actually put that into your account and say what monitoring station you use. And it's great because it lets you, if you already have a relationship with one, you keep on using that. That's just fine. It just goes from Alula to your monitoring station. Okay, video verification coming later in 19. Is there self-monitoring? Yeah, so again, I would say with self-monitoring, you can set that up in the app to do push notifications or emails or texts. So yeah, so you still need, and voice, yeah, if there's, it can make a phone call and give you a voice. So you will, to use the Connect Plus panel, you will always need some amount of a monthly fee, because there's got to be something to cover what it takes to get the signal from the Alula panel to the cloud, which then enables that self-monitoring. So what you can save is, you don't have to have the central station monitoring, but you do need to have the interactive service from the Alula panel up to the Alula cloud. Harry, if that answers that one for you on self-monitoring. Yeah, I apologize for the audio. I really don't know what's going on here. For the self-monitoring, again, if we can get that one out there, the whole issue with that is that, yes, you can self-monitor, but you do need, at the very minimum, you need the service that you get from Alula to get the signal from the Alula panel up to the Alula cloud. And guys, we're recording this one, so you'll have a link to the recording of it. Hopefully the audio is better there. We'll let you know when we find out, and we'll get you the link to watch that. Dave, I think we're all good. All right, at that, I think the questions have ended. Again, if you come up with a question later, feel free to give us a call. We're here at 800-282-8864. We'd love to hear from you and help you get started with this. And again, feel free to ask us for a login for this to see it for yourself. Feel free to take us up on that 10% discount to get a system in your own hands. And stay tuned for an email sometime before close of business today that'll have kind of a wrap up on everything we went through, as well as a link to the recorded webinar. So again, thanks guys very much for your time. We really appreciate it. we are super excited about this system. We've always been a fan, but with the recent updates that Connect Plus has made to it, it's even better. So between the cameras, the Z-Wave integration, the way the system programs up, we're excited about it. We hope you are too, and we really appreciate your time. Thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.